All right. We are back, and we are live on this Tuesday, talking rock with you as we do every day here on Trunk Nation, Faction Talk, SiriusXM Channel 103, and, of course, on the SiriusXM app. A lot to talk about with this guy. He's currently out playing shows with Tom Kiefer in a supporting slot there. He is one of the featured artists on a new Paramount Plus documentary series, which I did some work on and had a chance to see. It's coming out on July 18th. He also just recently rejoined the band, the Dead Daisies. He, of course, was a one-time member of Motley Crue, The Scream, Union. I'm talking about our old buddy who also, I should mention, is an author, because last time we had him on was for his great book, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. John Corabi joins us live right now. John, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. And before I start anything, I just have to say, go Eagles. Okay, now we're ready. Okay, awesome.
I left that off intentionally on your rundown of your resume that you're also an Eagles fan. Despite that,
yes,
we're still fans.
I know. I figured when your producer called, I just I answered that like that. I thought it would be you, but he was laughing. Anyway,
but he's a Giants fan too, so you're in Giants territory right now, buddy. So you're on enemy property right now.
Exactly, I hear you.
But that's what the rivalry's all about, man. That's how it should be. You know, you should be against the other three teams in the East. I hate the other three teams in the East besides the Giants. That's what being a fan is.
Exactly. Awesome.
So how's it going out there with Kiefer?
Dude, it's been great, man. You know, honestly, Tom and I have known each other for 40 plus years. We've cut our teeth in, the Philadelphia, New Jersey club circuit doing covers, and we've been on the road for God since June, beginning of June, and every now and then we get talking about the old days and all this other stuff. But it's been a blast. The fans are turning out, and the shows are everybody's playing their butts off. So it's been cool, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm going to see you on the 28th. I'm hosting the show you guys are doing in Houston at Rise Rooftop. And yes. That's just you. Now, there's no winger on that date. That's just Tom and you. So do you play longer, I imagine?
Yeah, a little bit longer. It's it's weird. I did this before with Tom. One of the last runs he did with Cinderella, and I didn't know how it was going to work. But it's been great, man. So right now there's 3 bands on the bill, so I do like 35 minutes. And then once Winger goes off on their own, I'll probably get bumped up to like 45, 50 minutes, something like that, whatever. I'll just tell more jokes.
Well, are you up there? You're not up there with a full band, right? This is you just with the guitar acoustic?
Yep, it's just me, as you've seen before, just me with an acoustic guitar and a few stories here and there. I'm keeping them very condensed, but it's so far so good, man. It's been awesome. Having a great time.
Speaking of stories, last time we spoke, at least on the air, was Monsters on the Mountain, and you had just released your autobiography. Now that it's been out for a little bit, and now that it's had a chance to sink in out there a little bit, how do you feel about it? How is the reaction to it from your fans? And, what are your thoughts now that it's been able to be out and circulate a bit?
It's cool. Honestly, I told you before, like I wasn't really looking to do a book, but then obviously the COVID thing happened, and Paul Miles contacted me, and he's like, well, you ready now? So we did it. Rare Bird's been great. And, with very supportive of the book. And, honestly, other than the fact that a few of the fans were a little discouraged at how many times I used the F-bomb in the book, they said it was a great read. So, it is what it is. I look at everything like, even with records, I do the best that I can. I do the best vocals or whatever, and I put it out there, and then I'm on to the next thing, you know what I mean? And whatever happens with it's going to happen. But so far it's been great, dude. It's selling well. I brought a bunch with me, and I'm almost out. So I got to call Rarebird and get more books for the second half of the tour. But it's been cool. It's been awesome.
For people that missed the book when it originally came out, I can't recommend it more highly. It's a great read. It's insightful. It's honest. It's revealing. It's funny. So there's great stuff in there, and I think people will really enjoy it. If they did not read it, you should absolutely get Corabi's autobiography, which has been available for a while. And that's cool that you're selling them on the road so you can get out there and sign them and hand them right to the people. That's always a nice thing.
Yeah, it's been I was surprised, because, we've got everything, the T-shirts and all that stuff, but the books have been, there's been quite a line each night for the books. So it's cool. Again, I it's weird not to sound pessimistic. I consider myself to be an optimistically pessimistic person. But like I said, I did the book, I put it out there, I kept my fingers crossed, and moving onward and upward. So it's all good.
So you are coming back to some familiar territory. I guess you start to engage with this when you're done with this tour with Kiefer, and that is a second tour of duty, rejoining the Dead Daisies. Tell me about that decision and how that came about.
Honestly, you and I have talked before, and I told you, like, I when I was in the band, again, not to sound weird, but I did that first record with the band, and it just kind of blew up, and it got to the point, like, we were doing like tours with Kiss and Whitesnake, and we were going overseas and doing festivals, and so I like, in the period of like 3 years, I think we did 4 albums or a little longer. It was like 4 albums, a bunch of world tours. And I, like, all of us, even the management, everybody was burnt. And then I had my son in my other ear, Ian, for my solo band. He's sitting there going, "Great, Dad, I moved to Nashville to be in the solo band with you. And, we've done like nothing. Like, what's going on?" So I just kind of got off the roller coaster for a minute. The guys, they grabbed Glenn Hughes and did a couple of great records with Glenn. And, now Glenn has decided to go back and do his Deep Purple thing. And I believe he's in the studio now working on a Black Country Communion record. So they just called me up and they're like, "Hey, are you rested? Are you ready to go?" And I was like, "Yeah." We sat down. I spoke with David Lowy. We had dinner in Nashville, and he basically just kind of said to me, like, I want to get out. I want to play. I want to tour, but I don't want to kill ourselves doing it. And I'm like, okay, awesome. That's all I needed to hear. And it so far it's been great. We rehearsed probably about 2 months ago. We had a week in New York, and we rehearsed for about a week, and it was awesome. I got another one coming up in a few days. I'm flying back to New York to rehearse for another 4, 5, 6 days. And then I finished the tour with Tom on August 18th at the Ryman. 19th is Laundry Day at my house, and I go right back out on the 20th with the Daisies. So it's cool.
Yeah, you've got tour dates that are already announced out there, a nice run, and the lineup, just to bring everybody up to speed on where the Dead Daisies are at now, and I've had every person who's been ever in this band on this show over the 10 years they've existed, including Lowy, including the guy whose band it is, David Lowy, who did a pretty long interview with me that was very candid last year, I think it was. But right now, the band, because Glenn played bass and sang, so you brought in Michael Devin, who I know as well, to play bass. So Glenn actually had 2 people replace him, you and Devin, and then the rest of the band remains the same. Doug Aldridge, Tishy, who came back a couple years ago, and, of course, Lowy and yourself. John, why do you think, by every measure, and I talked a little bit about this with Lowy too, and David Lowy was very open about his story. Everybody knows his story at this point, that he's a wealthy guy, and he has his fun doing this band. And apparently, you know, everybody in the band travels well and is treated well, and it's a great gig and it's a great situation. And everyone who's come on this show has said that. That being said, in the 10 years this band has existed, there's been a ton of turnover of members, including yourself now back for your second tour of duty. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, the list of people that have been involved in this. For example, I'll use one that you're very aware of, Damon Johnson. Damon's on the list of members of the band. Damon, though, or Yogi as well from Buck Cherry, but like those guys, there was a couple issues where David had some pressing things that he had to deal with. So we called Damon and said, "Hey, dude, what are you doing for 2 weeks?" And he's like, I'm open, you know. So we basically rehearsed with him real quick and flew him out. And he came in and he did a run until David could get back. So it's a little bit of a misleading number of people. I know Daryl Jones and Bernard Fowler are on the list. They came to Cuba with us when we did those shows. And Daryl filled in and did a few shows for Marco. But it wasn't like a long-term thing. Now, David put this band together. Initially, he had, like Richard Fortas and Dizzy, and he wanted great players, but he also knew, like, guys like Richard and Dizzy may or may not at some point leave and go back to their other thing. And he's just kind of left it open, and, like, it is what it is, like, it's just like, okay, well, if you got to go do something else, good luck. And we're going to find somebody else, and like we did with Richard, we got Doug Aldrich, but really he's tried to put a core band together. But, for example, now, like Marco on this run, Marco's like, he's doing his thing. He's knee deep in his solo career, and, so he couldn't come back. And so it is, it's just, at times you got to find a piece to fit in the puzzle. But it's worked out great, you know what I mean? For David, he's kept the thing running for 10 years and, still moving forward. So it is what it is. I know a lot of people don't understand it, but, they use the term collective for a reason.
What is your approach going to be to singing, or will you sing material from the two records they just made with Glenn? Because I agree with you; those are real good records. And we all know Glenn has, pretty special voice that's can get up there and sing in a way that's pretty crazy. Still, vocally, are you going to be able to do that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a few of the Glenn songs. And there's a couple spots where it's like, okay, I'm not even going to try and hit that note, so I just kind of, the integrity of the song is there. And I'm just kind of bluesy and it up a little bit, and making it more my thing. You know what I mean? But for the most part, the integrity of the songs are there. We found the ones that, weren't over the top, where Glenn was, going crazy with, he's unbelievable, dude. Like just going back and listening to this stuff, I'm like, holy God, like, how does this guy do it? But we found ones that I'm comfortable with, and they sounded pretty good. You know what I mean? So it's, but I'm just kind of changing them a little bit here and there and making them my own.
Yeah, well, that's all you can do. I mean, and obviously I love your voice, and you're a great singer as well. It's just, it's a different kind of singing. It's a whole different thing that Glenn does. It's like, again, even at his age, like you said, the notes he can go for and how high he can sing is crazy. It
was funny, though, too, because there was some things that I did with the Daisies that Glenn attempted to do, and he just didn't feel comfortable with it. He's like, nah, man, I can't sing that one. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he picked ones that he felt comfortable with, and he sang them his way. And I did the same thing. I listened to the stuff with the guys, and I'm like, well, okay, I think I'm good with these. So let's do these. So we're still blowing the dust off of some stuff. But it sounded great by the end of the last round of rehearsals. By the end of the week, it sounded awesome. So now it's like we just want to put the show back together again. And, in all honesty, like David said, I just want the ringleader back. Like, it was funny. He kind of likens me to, he said, when you're out there on stage, it's like you invited 1,500 or 2,000 people to a barbecue, and you're just joking with them and kidding with them and having fun. So they're like, let's put a kick-ass set together and just go out and have some fun. So we'll see what happens, man. I'm excited about it, though. It sounded great. I'm looking forward to the next batch of rehearsals. And then, after driving around in my motorhome in my truck on this tour, it'll be good to get back on the jet again.
You travel a little differently when you were in the Dead Daisies. That's for sure. You guys roll
Just
large.
A little, yes.
It's a nice thing. The dates are August 22nd. The shows start in, I'm not sure where this is, but you're a PA guy. Maybe Lititz, Pennsylvania.
It's out there near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And it's really funny too, because it was like I just recently found out it's Lititz.
You can get in trouble saying that the wrong way.
Yeah, well, that's what I was doing, because to be honest with you, there's 3 little towns in a row: Lititz, Blue Ball, and Intercourse. You do the math. So I am not kidding you. Look it up on a map. There's
no way.
3 of them in a row.
No way. Are you being serious?
I'm totally being serious. It's Lititz. There's like Blue Ball and Intercourse, Pennsylvania. Yes.
I thought you were making a joke.
No, I'm not making a joke. I'm serious. So for years, I was using the other pronunciation of Lititz. You do the math.
Oh my gosh, that is insane. Well, anyway, from there you go Jersey. For our listeners in Canada, you've got a good 4 or 5 shows in Canada: Toronto, Hamilton, Montreal, Ottawa, Vancouver. You're in Canada quite a bit, and then finishing up in LA with the last date at least announced now on September 10th at the Roxy. You got a date in Vegas at Vamped on the 9th. So everybody can go to the band's site and see the dates. There's about 10, 15 right now, U.S. and Canada announced. And the other piece of this is, since the band is celebrating 10 years, there's a compilation record coming out, right? Like a best of record.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like it's kind of cool because the band has been together now for 10 years, but there's obviously, like Glenn's got a huge following on his own, so a lot of people came into the Dead Daisies not really knowing much about the band with my time in it, or John Stevens, for example. So it's just cool. They put a best of record together. They've got some John Stevens stuff on there, some of mine, some of Glenn's. And it's just kind of like, hey, this is what we've done in the last 10 years, and hopefully there's way more to come. So, I kind of dig it, because there's been a few fans even that were partial to like my years that didn't really know, like when I left, they thought that, whatever, and they kind of fell off the train for a minute. And I was like, oh, they've done some great stuff with Glenn Hughes. And they were like, oh, I'll have to check that out. So this is just a cool way for everybody to become familiar with everything the Daisies have done.
Last thing on the Dead Daisies, have you guys talked about a new record?
A little bit. I mean, again, Eddie, like when we got together, like I hadn't played these songs in forever. And then there was a lot of stuff too that we're kind of doing in our set that they didn't play even with Glenn. So, right now we're just focused on putting a kick-ass set together, obviously go out and promote this new record. And then, we've talked about new music, but right now we haven't slotted anything like, all right, we're going to do a record in January or February. But there's been some talk, but nothing concrete yet. But we'll see.
All right. Before I let you go, a few other things I want to hit you with. I mentioned this when I introed you as well, and I've had a chance to see this. I don't know if you even had a chance to see it yet, but there is a new 3-part documentary series called I Wanna Rock: Living the 80s Dream coming to Paramount Plus on the 18th of this month. 3 one-hour episodes, and I've had a chance to watch it, and it focuses on a few different people in it and their stories, and you are one of the primary people featured in it. Have you had a chance to see it yet?
I've seen pieces of the last version I saw was they were still kind of getting like some of the sound, like you could hear like there was like background noise, and it wasn't quite sound wise edited yet, but what I saw, I liked. You know what I mean? It's really cool because it's not just about the thing that I like about it. It's not about the totally or 100% about the partying and the excess. There's a little bit of that in there, but it really kind of delves into each person that's involved, like why they got into music and how they got into music, and and then leaving wherever they came from and going to California to chase the brass ring, so it was a little bit of a different angle, and I thought it was really cool. So I was as surprised as anybody. I got a call from the MTV people and Tyler Measham, and they said, we want you involved in this. And I was like, okay. You do realize I'm the guy that ruined Motley's career, right? And so they're like, they'd be laughing about it, but it's cool. I'm excited about it, and I'm really excited too because they're featuring a song that I wrote with Marty Fredrickson at the end. So I'm gonna try. I'll send it to you when we get off the air. But it's a new song that's going to be in the documentary, and I want to try and set everything up so I can put that out as well in conjunction with or right after the premiere or the release of the series. But I'm excited about it.
I agree with you, and in full disclosure, I helped out a little bit on it behind the scenes. I'm not in it, but I helped do some consulting work behind the scenes on it. And I'll tell you, but I was not super involved at all, and I did get an advance to look at, and I loved it. And you kind of touched on one of the reasons why I loved it so much is because we've all heard the stories a billion times of how, well, if you're like us, we lived it, but people have heard the stories of the craziness of the Sunset Strip and how great the 80s were. And then, of course, the crash with Nirvana and who's returned and who hasn't and all that. That's been covered. And yeah, that's it. That is in this thing, and it's well done, that part of it. But I love the fact that they went and really honed in on not the usual suspects when they cover, when shows are done like this. People like yourself, people like Janet Gardner of Vixen, who was somebody that I recommended, Snake Sabo from Skid Row, Vicky Hamilton, who managed Motley, Poison, and Guns initially and got them going. Like, these stories are really good and different stories. And I got to tell you, John, I really think, and I don't know how many people will see this because there's a million streaming things these days, but hopefully people do. I think this is really going to be a big boost to you because people that know you maybe for one thing or another thing or the Motley stuff or whatever they may know, but they may not, people, unless they really are your hardcore fans, may not know your entire story. And that's really laid out pretty extensively in this.
Yeah, I was surprised. Tyler, who directed it, he called me up, and I told him a couple stories, and he was like, he was particularly moved by one. And, and that was the beauty of the whole thing, that I was like, okay, this isn't like, because I got to be honest, I've been offered and asked to do other things, but it really kind of, to me, it really kind of focused more on the chicks that, and I'm like, dude, it's been done. I don't want to be involved in this. And the thing that appealed to me about this was, like you said, it's the deeper story of what I had to go through to get to LA. And the best one, I got to be honest with you while we're talking about it, because I just told Kip this. Dude, I think one of the most insane parts of I told Kip this, and I don't care what anybody thinks, but I was almost moved to tears to the part where Kip, who we all know his story about his wife and the tragedies there, and then being, this world famous band, and then the cartoon characters that are just taking a piss out of him every whatever. But the fact when he got that nominated for a Grammy for that classical piece, and I just told him, I said, dude, I've never been happier in my life. Just watching that, I was so happy for you. Do you know what I mean? After seeing that. And I think it's really going to move a lot of people. There's some really deep stories there, and I call it the rags to riches rags to riches to rags story, and trying to climb back out of the hole again. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty deep, and I like the way they did it.
Yeah, and you're right. The stuff on Kip is incredible too, because it covers the Beavis and Butthead, the rise, the fall, but also
everything.
the stuff that people may not know about Kip. Like you said, the classical music and all the success he's had doing that. I mean, I talk about it a lot, but this is a broader thing, obviously. So I think that I think it's really going to be interesting, and just it's very candid. Like Janet Gardner admitting and showing that she's a dental hygienist and left Vixen and how to get a job and what she's doing now, and things like that. And Vicky's story being more behind the scenes in the industry and being there at the beginning on all these bands that went on to major status, and unfortunately losing them along the way. But yeah, it's real good for people that have Paramount Plus. July 18th is I think they're going to do one episode a week. They're 3 episodes, an hour long. And John Corabi is featured throughout, and really, really good. Very well done. This isn't some sort of YouTube thing, unauthorized, whatever. This is fully involved with the artists and MTV and all of that. So there's great stuff in there. And finally, John, obviously there's a lot in that show that's about your time in Motley Crue. And, I'm curious what your take on. I mean, I know you're close with Mick. I don't even know, as far as Mick's record is concerned. There's been so many people in and out of that, and it's taken so long. At the end of the day, are you on it or not, or do you know?
I don't know, and I have to be honest with you. I texted Mick when that first press release came out, and he did not respond, which was odd for Mick.
Me too, by the way. I text with Mick, and I did the same thing and didn't hear him, and that was odd. Hear from him.
Yeah, he was radio silent, and so it was funny. I was in Switzerland, and I texted his wife Serena, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm in your motherland," blah blah blah, and she immediately texted me back and said, "Oh, I can't wait to go there at Christmas," or whatever it was, and then I wrote, "How's Mick?" Radio silence. And I'm like, okay. And then I got asked at a book signing in London. They said a fan, because there was fans there, and the fan said, "Hey, what do you think of this whole Motley Crue thing? The release that was put out?" And I said, "Well, from experience, that release was put out by Motley Crue and their management. I'm not saying a word. I don't believe a word of it, but I'm not saying a word until I hear from Mick." And then obviously we know what happened there. But Mick's record, I don't know if I'm on it or not. I think that there's going to be, between me, you, and the fence post, I don't know if the record will come out because, unfortunately, I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I think Mick, his record, when he was finished, he signed a record deal with Alan Kovac's record label.
Motley's label and management. I know. I've talked about that too. I was because Jacob Bunton worked on the record too, and I think Jacob had told me that.
Yes, and so I gotta believe that
it's going to be tied up.
They're not going to allow him to release that record because if he I know how those guys work, and it's like if he releases this record and makes any money at all, it's going to go to a lawyer to help him with his lawsuit. So they're probably going to sit on that record, and I just hope that Mick can get it back, get it out, and I hope that he's got his ducks in order, and got all his facts correct so that he doesn't sit there with egg on his face at the end of this. But we'll see. I'm as clueless as everybody else is. It to me, as much as I've been through with the guys, to me, the whole thing is just sad. They've got a 41-year legacy, and it's kind of like peeling an onion. Like, it's just coming, it's not good. You know what I mean? This whole thing is not good. So.
You know what I think about? If they would have adhered to their contract when they ended, that they were never going to come back, none of this would be happening. But of course,
something. I gotta be honest with you. Like, my wife, I remember when I was in Rat, one of the last tours I did with them, we did some shows with the Scorpions in Illinois in the Midwest. And my wife was a huge Scorpions fan. And she was like, oh my God, I'm never going to get to see them again. So I flew her up. She came to the show, and I got her sitting on a chair, right on the side of the stage, and she was just in her glory. And then it was well, we've kind of decided that we're going to keep going. And I mean, I nothing against the Scorpions. I don't care what anybody chooses to do. But my wife was like, how do these bands get away with telling everybody they're going to retire? They charge astronomical sums of money for the retirement tickets, and then they don't retire. And my wife now is at a point, as much as she loves the Scorpions, she will never buy another Scorpions record again because she feels like she was frauded. And, when Motley signed that agreement, I just looked at my wife and I go, I think we're about to have another Scorpions episode. You know what I mean?
I talk about it all the time. I don't know how anybody can ever believe, not just Motley, the Eagles just announced their farewell, and they said they're going to play for as long as they want to and play in as many nights in consecutive nights in cities until the tickets are all exhausted, and they'll probably go into 25 or 2026. And they announced their first farewell in 2002. So it's it's a running joke. Yeah, I mean, there's no band that's ever done it and stayed away. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anybody buys into it.
It's I mean, and again, to each his own. But it's when did Ozzy announce the No More Tours tour?
92.
Yeah, and, I love the guys in Kiss, but I think they've been on a farewell tour since,
23 years?
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, who knows, dude? I don't...
The Who in 82, John, The Who announced their farewell in 82, 41 years ago. They're still playing shows.
Yeah, so...
I just read this. Wait a minute. One more for you. I just read this last night. I forgot to mention this. Elton John... The long goodbye, Yellow Brick Road, whatever he was calling it, farewell tour, played the final show the other night. At the end of the show of what was billed as his final show, he stepped up to the microphone. He said, I'll be back way sooner than you think. Imagine if you drop like 20 grand on a ticket thinking you're seeing the final ever Elton John show, and then you walk out of the place saying, "What?" It's insane.
Like, come on, you know what I mean? And it's just, it's funny to me, you know, again, to each his own. You know, maybe there's a master plan that I haven't figured out yet. But I'm here to tell you today, I'm retiring until tomorrow. Like, whatever.
Hey,
if it works for everybody else, it's got to work for me, dude. Come on.
Yeah, why not? One other thing that just hit me, I often forget that you were in Rat. And I just had Piercy on my show the other day, and we were talking, and, you know, they put out this box set of all the Rats, the classic Rat stuff. But what is your take on that? Because that's a band that so many people ask me about, and you were in there for a little while, that you know, really could be doing some stuff right now, could possibly be like third build on a stadium tour or headlining some of these 80s themed things, and they just cannot make that thing work. The different dynamics and history of lawsuits and all of that. Do you have any insights on what really goes on, having been somebody on the inside of Rat, as to why they can't function?
I love Warren, Bobby, Juan, even Carlos, Robbie Crane, like everybody that's been involved in things, Jizzy, you know, Steven. But it's crazy, dude. Like, we used to laugh. Robbie Crane will tell you too, but like me, Robbie Crane, and like Craig Bradford, who's actually tour managing Tom Kiefer right now.
Yep.
We would go out. We would show up at rehearsal, and they would say, "Oh, yeah, rehearsal at 12." And we'd get in there, and we'd start setting our gear up, and then Bobby and Warren would start going at it about the tempos of the song. And it would just go on and on. So I'd be sitting there with my guitar on, and Crane sitting there, and then Crane would go, "Hey, dude, you want to go get a sandwich?" I'm like, "Yep, okay." And we'd literally go get a sandwich, eat the sandwich at Subway or wherever we went, come back, and they'd still be arguing about the same song. And it's crazy to me. I love all those guys individually, but when you put them all together, they're all like, it's like this toxic, I don't know what it is. Like, they cannot function together. And I even told, I just saw Blotzer at Troy Patrick's wedding a couple years ago, and I'm like, dude, Motley's figured it out. They just travel separately. Like, just do what you got to do. Like, put the band back together again. Get out there, like you said. I mean, I could have easily seen Rat on that, you know, Motley, Def Leppard, Poison, Rat tour. It could have been awesome. But they can't get out of their own way. I love those guys individually. Steven and I are fine. Like, he always texts me for my birthday or Father's Day or whatever. And, but it's crazy when you put them all together. You put all the ingredients in the pot. It's supposed to be a really tasteful stew. For some reason, it's like, nah, dude, it's onion soup and they forgot the onions. It's weird.
Yeah. I know. It's hard to figure. It really is, because there's so many great songs and they could be doing some great business, but they just cannot figure it out and get out of their own way. It's great. I love them all as well. I know them all individually. I've interviewed them all in various configurations, but it's head scratching that they just, you know, it's a revolving thing as far as who has the issue with who on any given day, and they just cannot make it work.
Rat's like inviting your blind friend to a gun range. It's like, nah, this ain't going to work.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate the time. Say hi to everybody out there on the road. I'll see you in a couple weeks in Houston at Rise Rooftop. Looking forward to hosting that one, and that's with you and Tom, and of course Winger on most of the dates as well. I think LA Guns comes in on a few dates here and there. I think even Piercy comes out on a couple shows, if I'm not mistaken.
I think Tom and Piercy just played yesterday in Big Flats, New York. I split and went and did a couple of solo shows. They played yesterday, and I'm not sure if there's any more. But, yeah, when we get back to Nashville, I got a little break after the Daisies rehearsals, and then it's me and Tom, and then we go to Green Bay, and Winger jumps on for like a show or two, and then it's me and Tom, and then Winger does the last show at the Ryman in Nashville.
Nice. All right, well, lot going on, man. John's back in the Dead Daisies. Tour dates coming up with them. The Greatest Hits record coming up with them. See John out now, like we just talked about, opening for Tom Kiefer, and see John in the coming Paramount Plus documentary called I Wanna Rock, which starts on July 18th. And all good stuff, man. Good to see you're so busy, and I'll see you in Houston soon.
Awesome, buddy. You forgot to mention that I'm now the night manager at the 7-Eleven too, so it's all good. But I will looking forward to seeing you in Texas, buddy.
All right, man. Take care. Travel safe.
I'm in late.
See ya. There he goes. Love that guy. Always fun to talk to him. John Corabi checking in. A lot going on. He's got so many things on his resume that I often forget. Like I spaced for a bit that he was in Rat for a while. He had that great band Union, which was with Bruce Kulick back in the day and did a couple great records. The Scream, which was a great band. Some of that is all chronicled in this documentary that's coming up that he's a part of. There's a lot, Corabi's, list of stuff is pretty impressive, but, and of course, Motley is the thing everybody knows, and that one record he did with Motley, but it's amazing. Like a guy like that, and this is kind of the tone of this documentary coming out, is he's had all these opportunities and all these things that have happened, but he never quite got over the proverbial hump. You know what I mean? He never became that household name. Obviously, the closest it came was when he joined Motley, but then again, it was the 90s, and we all know how hard that was on bands like Motley and everybody else who came from the 80s. But still, he never still became that household name guy, but has for 40 years now or better been able to carve out a career working as a musician and supporting himself that way. And look, there's a lot of people that aspire to rich, famous, all of that. And then there's a lot of musicians who right now would sign for, hey, I can make my living and support my family or support myself through just playing music. I'm good. I'm good with that. I mean, to a lot of people, that's the dream. So, interesting. John's always had a great demeanor about it, never been down, never been bitter, and always been a straight shooter, and I always respected that about him. So thanks to John Corabi for joining us. Again, a lot going on that we just covered right there, and if you missed any of it, you know the drill. Catch the re-air at midnight Eastern on 103, or just go to the app, listen to the interviews or full shows anytime you want on demand. All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll go the rest of the way with your calls. Anything on the Corabi interview, or if you want to call in, and we talked about Rock Island being announced today, and we talked about Power Trip and the big news Judas Priest announced today as the replacement for Ozzy Osbourne. We can touch on that some more as well. Anything you want to hit me with, back with your calls next on Trunk Nation.